I'm very pleased to welcome back to our studio Senator Rick Santorum. About, I think, the third time you've sat in that chair.
It might be more than that.
Yeah, really?
I've been here. I've been here maybe 4 or 5 times. I think. I don't know. It
well,
feels like I've been here more often than that. Well, we've done some on the
jam as well.
We've done some. That's right. Well, I'm talking. We've also done some on the phone.
We absolutely. Do we know each other well enough that I can call you my friend now?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that always will spark the email. People will say,
"You're
for Santorum."
Yeah, good.
Absolutely.
There it is. Here he said it.
Yeah,
right here. We can quote Simon Conway saying, "You're for Santorum."
Yeah, that was third person.
Oh,
anyway,
I'm sorry. Okay.
We're going to do something a little bit different today. We are absolutely going to get to the issues, but I want to try and dig a bit deeper into finding out who you are. So let's talk about growing up.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's talk about you growing up. What was your family life like when you were growing up?
I talked about that on the debate the other day. I mean, it was I grew up in really maybe a little different place. I grew up on a VA post, like a military post, if you will. I grew up in an apartment we moved 3 times when I was a kid from post to post to post, but always lived because both my parents worked for the Veterans Administration, and so they were on campus, if you will, or on post, and so it was really cool. I mean, it was tiny little quarters, but we didn't really realize that they were the same as everybody else's, and so it was great. We had lots of space because you had the post. I mean, that was sort of your yard. Yeah. You had a lot of place to get around, and I interacted a lot with veterans because my folks worked there, and we would do sort of service projects and things like that, and just helping the veterans and interacting with them at the when they were doing their rehab in the pool and things like. So it was really a great place, and I got a tremendous amount of respect for our country, and because this was during Vietnam.
Sure.
And so I got a great amount of respect for our veterans and for our country and the service, and it probably helped make me a little bit of a conservative in this respect, because I saw the antipathy focused on the men and women returning home from Vietnam, and it really ticked me off because I knew these guys.
Sure.
And I saw them with their brokenness, if you will. My dad was a psychologist. Yeah. So I saw not just the brokenness from the standpoint of injuries, but the psychological impact of Vietnam, which of course PTSD. We were really trying to get our arms around that at that point, and so when I saw sort of the antipathy of the anti-war movement, I was anything but them.
Sure,
and I think that sort of helped mold a little bit my view of politics in America.
When did you get your first paying job? That can even be mowing the lawn for cash.
Oh, well,
I was 12 personally. I was 12. I went and worked in a shoe store.
Oh wow, the first pay. I mean. Well, let me see.
Please don't say the United States Congress. That would really upset me.
No, I mean, I did lots of sort of odd jobs for things. Helping out people around the house, washing. I used to wash cars.
How old were you when all that started?
Oh gosh, 13, 14. I used to. When I was a little older, I had. There was a friend of ours who had one son, a younger son, and they wanted a male to babysit him, not a female, and so I babysitted. I did some babysitting, which I know people say you're a male babysitter. Yeah, because they didn't want a woman babysitter for a kid who was 12, 13 years old. So there you go. So I did some of that. Basically, any way I can make money. I did some lifeguarding. I did a few.
What was the motivation to make your own money? What was it? Was it coming from above, as in mom and dad, or was it coming from within?
It was coming from within. I mean, mom and dad, they weren't big on allowances, and they weren't. And back then, allowances were sort of much more than they are now. We don't give our kids allowances, but back then, allowances were sort of part of the deal. They weren't really much into that. I mean, you had to sort of work.
So you wanted your own money.
Yeah, and so we had to go out and sort of make our own money. So we had a. Not too far away, there was a Montgomery Ward's. That was the closest place you could buy anything. Okay. And it was probably about half a mile away, and we could walk to it. And so I used to go there, and one of my food challenges is French fries. So they used to have really good French fries, and it turned out they eventually banned me from the Montgomery Wards.
Wow.
This is one of the things that'll when they really start digging,
Uh-huh.
they're going to find this out.
Excellent.
Yeah, they banned me from the Montgomery
deep,
Ward.
dark secret.
This is people say, Rick, what are the scandals?
Revealed on the Simon Conway
Revealed
Show.
on the
Here it
Simon-
comes.
They banned me. Why?
Uh-huh.
Because I have fries with my ketchup, not ketchup with my fries.
Okay.
I'm a ketchup. I love ketchup, and so I would use so much ketchup. They said, "No more. We're not selling you anymore. You're eating us out of ketchup."
Well, surely the United
So
States.
they banned me from buying fries at the Montgomery Wards. I said it's a true story.
Excellent. Surely the United States Congress has classed that as a vegetable now. Anyway,
That's
along
what I
with
was.
pizza, right?
I was always trying to make greasy fried foods healthy. That's
There
the
you
way I
go.
looked at it.
Okay, I get where you're coming from. Talk to me about your high school experience. Was it a good experience, a bad experience? Were you pleased to get out of there? Did you miss it?
Oh no, I had a almost in a sense like a 1950s kind of high school experience. I mean, I was involved in sports for a while. I played
Which sport?
basketball.
Yeah.
I played basketball and up until let me see. I guess I was a junior in high school. I didn't play that year, but enjoyed it. I was going to play, but I broke my hand and was out for the year. And then we moved my senior year, and I just didn't take up sports at the new place I went to. But instead of doing basketball, which I couldn't, I decided, I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of musical talent.
Likewise.
I mean, I tried guitar, didn't work. Tried piano, didn't. I mean, it just never really took. I can sing a little bit, but only when nobody's listening.
And once again, by the way, if you were sat next to me last night at the Bob Seger concert, I do apologize for my singing. Sorry, carry on, Senator.
They do the same thing when I'm at church. My kids always say, "Dad, quiet, don't sing so loud." But anyway, so I decided, I would have some fun. I wanted to do something, so I actually got into the color guard at the band. So I would carry the American flag in the band.
Oh, cool.
That's what I wanted to do. I said I'd do it. You know, they were trying to recruit people, and I said I'll only do it if I can carry the American flag. So I was very proud to carry the American flag in the band. So that was fun.
That might actually lead us into my next question. When did you realize you wanted to get into public service? What kind of age?
I got interested in politics when I was in college.
Okay.
And through a college course I took, and you had to work on a campaign and do a report on it. And ended up going down. It's sort of the typical story of me. I went down to the headquarters where the Republican headquarters, because I was nominally a Republican, and I knew one of the candidates running for office, a guy named John Hines, who's running for the Senate. And I was not very political at all, not very ideologically driven at all, other than this sort of notional sense of being, for the military and all that kind of stuff. And then I went down there to try to sign up, and it turned out he didn't have a campaign and really wasn't doing anything. I was at Penn State, and so they said, would you like to go to work? And so I did. So I just started working. I've got a pretty good work ethic, and just kept showing up and doing work. And eventually, someone from that campaign did show up one day at the Republican headquarters there, and they said, "Hey, this guy, shows up." And I said, "Well, we'll take him."
There you go.
And so I became chairman of the Students for Hines at Penn State University, and ended up organizing events when he came up into campus, and working on doing door knocking and organizing precincts and things I knew nothing about, of course, and then within a few months, started the Republican Club up at campus. It was 1977, so this was post-Vietnam War. Republicans were less seen on college campuses than they are today.
Sure.
And so it was an opportunity to sort of start again, and became the chairman. Can you start it? You can become the chairman. So that's what happened, and the rest is history.
Excellent. We're talking to Senator Rick Santorum, your candidate Rick Santorum, in our studio with us today, and we're just kind of finding out a bit about him as a person and where he came from, as opposed to talking about the issues. By the way, if you're on the phone, and I can see we've got pretty much a full board with questions for the senator, I promise you I will get to you if you have the patience to stay there. So let me ask you this. Do you remember the first time you laid eyes on your wife, Karen?
Absolutely. I walked into an office, and I was working at a law firm, and I was recruited to recruit her to come to the firm.
Okay.
And long story, I didn't want to do it, not because I didn't know who it was, but I had other things to do, and I was too busy. Long story short, I ended up being forced into doing it, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I walked in, and she was sitting on a chair as I walked in the door, and I looked at her, and it was like, wow, I'm really glad. I'm really glad I decided to do this. And we went out, and it was a group of us. There was about 4 or 5 of us. And she had been offered a job and she hadn't taken it.
Okay.
And so they were trying to recruit her to accept. And so we went out there and just had the best time. She accepted that night, and then we after that broke up, we went out after, just the 2 of us.
Okay.
And went out to a comedy club and had a great time, and we just knew.
So you started dating that night?
Yeah, that night.
Wow.
No, I was.
You weren't going to let the grass grow on the offing,
No. She was very, 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 very special, and I still get a little Twitter in my stomach when I think of that.
We can see it on your face. We are videoing this as we do with all our presidential interviews. It'll be up on our YouTube channel and my Facebook later on today.
I'm very blessed.
At 21 years, right? You've been married?
Yeah, be 22 in June 2nd.
Wow, there you go. Greatest moment of joy in your life?
I can go over that 7 times. With all the
7 greatest moments.
Yeah, 7 greatest moments. Yeah, I mean everyone. I mean, one was pretty scary. I mean, one of those 7 we sort of had our number 6 was a very scary moment where we almost thought we lost him. But other than that scare, they were all pretty amazing.
Okay, and finally on the personal stuff, moment of deepest sadness.
I lost my son.
Okay.
That was number 4. We've actually had 8 children.
Okay.
And our 4th child was born prematurely, and it was a long story. But he was born and only lived a couple hours, and it was big moment in my life.
Sure, I'm sure. You have lots of similar. I actually wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
To be honest, you have lots of similarities with Michelle Bachmann, don't you? Because she's lost one as well.
Yeah, we've look, nobody gets through this place unscarred, right?
That's right.
We all take our lumps and we learn from it. And I've said this, and I get criticized as struggle is not a bad thing. Struggle is what makes you who you are, and it certainly has made me who I am, and I'm better because of my little son Gabriel's life, and better from having to deal with as you know, we have a little girl who's disabled, and she's made me wow, is she gentled my condition.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff it just keeps trying to hone you and improve you and make you that person that you really should be.
Okay, well, almost less significant, but I guess not. But I guess not to our audience,
No.
and indeed, one of the many reasons you're running for office. China has announced today that it is going to tax U.S.-made imported cars. So here's the question: when is the United States going to show some backbone in our dealings with the Chinese, or do we now owe them so much money that literally there is nobody in the country that can do that?
Well, I mean, this is a situation where if they're unilaterally, I'm not familiar. I haven't read that article, so it's hard for me to comment.
Absolutely.
But if this is a situation,
I don't do gotcha stuff. You
no,
know me
no,
well
I understand.
enough.
No, I mean, I'm out. I've done 5 events today, and so I haven't had a chance to necessarily catch up on all the news. But
absolutely.
What I would say is if China is getting in the business of unilaterally imposing tariffs, when that happens, then there's always a countermeasure that happens, and we need to look at I'll examine the situation as to why they're doing what they're doing. But if it is if this is something that violates the trade agreements that we have, and we do have a trade regime with China, then we need to respond. But I'll take a look at exactly the details.
It is a Financial Times story. It's not a tabloid story, so it's a very serious story. And I will print it out for your staff before they leave here, so that they can take a look at it. Okay, we're facing another government shutdown this weekend, and personally, I hope it happens. I've got to say, for no other reason than I really want to see what 1 million non-essential workers being laid off looks like. I really do. But first of all, is it going to happen, or are they just winding us up again? They're going to come to some deal, right?
This is one that I don't get the sense, given the lack of attention that's been paid to this so far, that anybody's real serious about about drawing the line in the sand. If we were going to draw the line in the sand, I would think we would have done a better job preparing the American public and talking about why we weren't going to continue to fund a government in excess of what we should be. And you can't go out and have the, quote, government shut down and have Americans sort of wake up one day and say, why did that happen? You've got to go out and make the case, and it just doesn't seem to me that the Republicans have made the case as to why this needs to happen. So I'm assuming with that they're not serious. Okay. They're not serious about drawing the line here. If they were serious, they'd have made a big point of it, and disappointingly, they haven't. Okay.
The biggest problem I've got is that politicians from all sides are fundamentally lying to us. And by that I mean, in addition to the $15 trillion and counting every second, debt that's increasing, we actually have $120 trillion of unfunded liabilities right now.
Sure.
So you've got Ron Paul out there saying he's going to cut $1 trillion. Big deal. You've even got Strong America Now, who I like. I like Strong America Now. I know you've signed their pledge, which basically is going to cut $5 trillion over a 10-year period. And none of it is relevant if we're actually honest about the size of the problem. The size of the problem right now is $135 trillion.
Well, I would say this: you can't cut $135 trillion when your budget's only at a little over $3 trillion. I mean, so you can't. I mean, so there's in a 5-year window, you're talking about government expenditures in the area of $17 to $18 trillion, and what I've talked about is cutting $5 trillion of that back. Now that's a pretty substantial cut. I mean, that's about a 25% cut, and a little over 25% cut. That's a big deal. I mean, that and I feel very good about putting a bold number out there, which I have, putting plans behind it to how you get there, and a lot of the changes that we make. For example, when we take the Medicaid system and we cap it, block grant it, don't increase it, give it to the states, and give them the flexibility to use these enormous amount of resources that Washington has given it to design a program that fits the needs of their low-income people in their state. That's going to save, let's pick a number. I don't know what the exact number is. Let's say it saves, $150 or $200 billion over the first 5 years. Well, that's going to save trillions over that $120 billion unfunded liability time frame. So putting things in place right now is really important. The key is sticking with them and making sure that we do fundamentally change Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the programs that do result in the $120 trillion of unfunded liabilities.
I always think the word unfunded liabilities is like, I know my power bill is coming, and I'm going to have to pay it. And I've got to figure out where the money's coming from.
Right, but the $120 billion is over like 75 years. So you can't fix it today, but you got to put things in place to fix it so it doesn't happen in the future.
To James. Hi, James.
Well, good afternoon, Senator Santorum.
Hi, James.
Anyhow, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. It happens to be my 48th birthday.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
It's somebody on my staff's birthday today, too, I think.
Very good. Anyhow, I'd just like to ask your position on a united Israel with a solid, undivided city, Jerusalem, as its capital. What are your views on the subject?
You mean, just so we're clear, you mean a unified city of Jerusalem, which already exists, with but as the capital of...
As the capital.
Right.
When I was in the Senate, I sponsored bills to make Jerusalem the capital. I think it is outrageous that the United States would recognize every other capital that the country designates as its capital except Israel. And one of our closest allies, and we don't do them the courtesy of recognizing the capital as they so stated, and I think that's wrong.
Yep. Okay. Well, there's a very straightforward answer for you there, James. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Tim now. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Senator.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, if you were president when the Islamists flew the planes into the World Trade Center, what would you have done?
I think I would have probably done the same thing. I supported President Bush in his effort to go after those who were the perpetrators of that violence, and it was clear that the President did that, and I supported his efforts.
Okay, again, a very straightforward answer. If you'd like to ask the Senator a question, 284-1040, 800-469-4295, or you could use the American Toppers and Accessories text line at 989-1040. It says, please ask your distinguished guest where he stands on Congress being exempted from trading rules. That's from Jeff in Des Moines.
Well, they're not exempt from trading rules. There need to be special trading rules for members of Congress. No member of Congress is exempt from the insider trading rules that are in place right now. For example, you can't trade on inside information that you get from a company. And if there was any kind of trading of that nature, they should have been prosecuted. This is having information about what Congress is going to do that might affect a company, not what the company knows and the public doesn't. So there is a difference between the two, and there should be rules in place that Congress cannot trade on information about things that they are planning to do that would regulate those businesses, and that's what this new law is focused on.
Okay.
Correctly so.
Yeah, absolutely correctly so. All right, if you want to weigh in with a question, you can do so, 284-1040, 800-469-4295. But I got one now.
Your turn.
You're obviously extremely proud of your faith. The election, however, the presidential election, ultimately is always about the economy. So is the emphasis that you've placed on faith and social issues, do you think that's a campaign mistake you might have made?
Well, what I do is I put the emphasis on the issues of faith and family that I think are important in understanding how it affects the economy in the country. And I don't think anyone can doubt that when the family continues to break down, there was a statistic that came out today that the marriage rate in this country is down to the lowest level since they started recording it. It's now at just 50% of people who are over the age of 25 are married in this country. By comparison, I think if you go back 30 or 40 years, it was 71%. And the fact that parents are not coming together and marrying, or you're having a lot of children being raised by single parents, has an impact in the economy. You're putting an enormous strain on single moms. I mean, enormous. I mean, you know the heroic work that single moms do in this country to raise children and try to serve the roles of two people. It's just hard, and I think most single moms would tell you that it's harder. And as a result, the poverty level among single-parent households is higher. It's almost 40% in America today, compared to two-parent families, which it's about 8%.
Yeah,
and
I was a single dad. I raised two girls.
Well,
of my
there you go.
own.
And it's hard.
Like.
I mean,
it's real hard.
It's hard being a mom to your girls.
Yep.
I mean, it's just you're different.
Absolutely.
And so what I've said is, heroic that in your case, and as you know, mostly single moms who are doing this, not dads. And what I say is, let's see what we can do to try to repair this institution of marriage and try to get mothers and fathers to hold together and form good unions in the first place, and then try to help and nurture those unions so they can be there to support their children both morally and economically and spiritually and otherwise.
So your contention is this, that whilst these may be social issues, they're actually social issues with I'm trying to nutshell it because I got to go to traffic.
No, I got
they're social issues with
huge
major economic impact.
Absolutely. Well, and huge government impact. I mean, the size of government has exploded in part because of the breakdown of the family. And when you see poverty rates go up, guess who comes in and fills in the void? It's big government. So we have an interest in having faith and family continue to be strong in America. If for anything, for limited government and lower taxes.
All right, we're talking to Rick Santorum. And I'm not a cheerleader. I love the
cheer,
fact,
please, come on.
I love the fact that I get accused of supporting every candidate I have in here. It's one of my greatest joys is that email. But you have been here longer. You've worked harder than any other candidate in this race. I say that because it's a fact. It's not an opinion. That's a hard fact. So here's the issue. Why have you still not resonated?
Well, there's a poll out today that has me 8 points behind Mitt Romney. That's we got 3 weeks to go.
Isn't that his decline? No.
Well, yeah, but we're moving up too. I mean, we're most of the polls have us now in the high single digits, which in a 6-person race, we're within striking distance of doing very, very well, and we're moving up. I mean, a few weeks ago we were at 3 or 4, now we're 7, 8, 9, and that to me is exactly the kind of rise you want to have. Is just slow and steady as people start to make decisions. They say, you know what, this is our guy, and boom, we've now solidified our position based upon doing the research. And what I was told by Terry Branstad when I first came here, and he was running for governor, and I was talking about maybe running for president. He said, Rick, have faith in the people of Iowa. He said, you can't buy Iowa. He said, you got to go out and work for it. He said, don't pay attention to the polls. He said, you wait till caucus night. You'll find out. You can't buy Iowa. You've got to go out and work for the people. You got to get in front of them. You got to let them have the opportunity to see who you are and know not just what you say, but be able to look at your eyes and look in, really into your soul and see whether you're the right guy for the job.
Certainly, you've been here long enough to do that.
We've done 350 town hall meetings so far.
That's crazy. If ever there was a reason not to run for president, you just heard it from
that's not, Simon, that is absolutely. This has been a wonderful experience. I mean that in all sincerity.
No, I know you do. I really know you do.
It's been
when
great.
I say it's crazy, I mean the level of work and commitment that you have to be able to do something like that. Let me ask you this: how well have you got to do in Iowa to stay in this race?
Oh, better than expected. And the expectations, thanks be to God, are very low. So, I mean, I'm sitting here. This is sort of depressing, Simon. I'm sitting here watching the television and seeing ad after ad by all of my opponents, one after another on Fox News, and then listening to the ads in between. Although I did hear an ad from someone who I'd never heard of for me.
There you go.
And that I never even knew that was out. So, I have to tell you that, we're just out here and we're going to continue to work hard and again, trust the people of Iowa.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were you embarrassed when the president said, please may we have our drone back?
Yeah. The President of the United States pleading with a country that is in a declared war with us. I mean, people don't realize that. Iran declared war against us in 1979 and has never rescinded that declaration. They're at war with us. Yep. So can you imagine during World War II, Roosevelt saying, hey, that plane that fell into Germany, can you send that one back to us? We're sort of short right now. It's pathetic.
They're making fun of him today, by the way, the Iranians.
Well, of course they would. I mean,
I did that yesterday.
Well, good.
You're always caught up today.
It's not much to be a step ahead of the Iranian government, but nevertheless, I'm glad you did. This is the state. This is the state that we are in. That the President of the United States is simply not up to this job.
Okay, just got to tell you on the American Toffers and Accessories text line, Heather says the senator has my vote, but could you ask him to rustle up a scandal so he could get some more press, please?
People have asked me why I haven't moved up in the polls. I said because from the press perspective, I'm pretty boring to cover. I mean, I don't make a lot of gaffes. At the debates, I answer the question and do so in a competent way based on the knowledge I have and the positions I hold and. No personal scandals or baggage, so it's pretty boring for the media to talk about me.
Now, I can see the questions on the board. I really don't have time to bring everybody on, and I've really got to ask you to keep your answers short. So
yes.
Here's the people that want to get on, the questions they have for you. What do you think is the biggest challenge to winning the nomination? That was from Michael.
Doing well in Iowa. If I can do well in Iowa and Iowa puts me on the map, we'll win this nomination.
Okay. There's a question we've already asked. The person that wants to know about Arlen Specter, go back to our previous interviews with the senator. We asked and answered. Does the United Nations have too much influence on the United States?
Yes, under this administration, it will not undermine.
Okay. We've covered that. And in the debate, you talked about illegal immigration the other night and what you would do after you sealed the border. So we've asked that. So I want to end here. We just talked about Iran. How dangerous is Iran?
It is a huge threat to the security of our country, and not just an existential threat to both Israel and potentially to the United States. This is a country that has resources and has the desire and willingness to use those resources to purvey terror around the world. This is a country during the Iran-Iraq War that sent over 100,000 children into the lines against the Iraqis as minesweepers to blow up mines so their troops could then attack the Iraqi positions. 100,000 children. These are folks that now want a nuclear weapon. Who say that their principal virtue of the Islamic Republic of Iran is martyrdom. Giving them a nuclear weapon is and saying if you use it, we'll use one against you is not a deterrent. It is an inducement, and this is why they're so dangerous.
Okay, well, I think you summed that up very well, and there does seem to be, this is me talking, a distinct lack of understanding for who Iran are. I'm going to give you the opportunity, as I give all the candidates the opportunity, to give out your website.
It's ricksantorum.com, and I'm glad you did, because we have a money bomb going today. We haven't done this whole new thing called a money bomb. We've got one today, and I always ask people, this is the most important election that we're going to have in our country, and if you want to, we need you to step up, and if you can help, and I know there are people out there who are making ends meet, but if you got a little excess, a little help to us would go a lot farther than any other campaign, let me assure you.
And the only thing I would say to everybody is, as the Senator just said, it is the most important election, I actually believe, possibly since the Civil War.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
So vote your conscience. Do not settle. Vote your conscience. That's from me. Nothing to do with Senator Rick Santorum. As ever, an absolute pleasure having you in here.
Well, thank you,
today.
Simon. And I would just add to that, Iowans, lead. That's your job. That's what you've asked for. Lead. Don't listen to anybody else. RickSantorum.com.
News Radio 1040 WHO.